A certain someone calls me a Karen, says that I've got a little Karen in me. And my response was that I'm ethnically unable to be a genuine Karen because I'm black, and a Karen is a white female. Um, and there's all kinds of connotations associated with that name. This person claimed, didn't care what race I was. Um, I'm a Karen in their eyes. So, what is a Karen? Let's explore what a Karen is. Because the definition of a Karen, and let me just look this up, meaning. The definition of a Karen on here is a pejorative term for a white woman perceived as entitled or demanding beyond the scope of what is normal. The term is often portrayed in memes depicting white women who use their privilege to demand their own way. So I think this is a great topic to explore on my channel, as I explore many different topics. It's not a true crime channel. I do explore true crime. That's one of the things I explore, but I explore many other things on my channel. I've talked about COVID. I've talked about rivalry and other channel creators. I've talked about Afghanistan stuff. I've talked about many things on my channel, and this is just a topic that I would like to explore in the light of recent events. Now, the person who called me a Karen, and I'm sure you can guess who it is, watches all of my videos and consumes all of my content and goes through all my content comment threads. And that's fine. I'm glad that he finds my content interesting. And I just want to say, I have never pretended that I'm any saint, that I'm a perfect person, that I'm completely free of fault or flaws. And most of the content on my channel attracts female audiences, particularly the true crime stuff that I do is a mostly female audience. But still, even though only about 4% of the people who come to my channel are males, I'm accused by this person who calls me a Karen that I wear low-cut tops simply to attract male viewers. And I just, not only is that cringeworthy, not only is that false and completely untrue, but why is it for some men, if a woman is wearing a low-cut top, she must be doing it to entice men? I don't understand that thinking. I've worn all types of clothes in my lifetime. Sometimes I've worn short skirts, sometimes I've worn pants, sometimes I've worn low-cut tops or halter necks, and there are times when I've worn polar necks and jumpers, all types of clothing. Why is it that a man who sees a woman in a low-cut top automatically thinks she's wearing that low-cut top to entice men? Because as far as I'm concerned, that is a very misogynistic statement. If a woman wears makeup, for example, which I don't. I mean, I don't wear makeup a lot. I don't wear a lot of makeup. I mean, I used to, but not anymore. Over the years, I just don't, because it irritates my skin. But why is it that when a woman dresses a certain way, do some men take that to be, oh, she's doing it to attract the opposite sex? Why can't a woman just be dressing in a certain way to please herself? And the term Karen has been criticized as being ageist, sexist, racist, classist, and misogynistic, seeking to control a woman's behavior. I'm not opposed to the term, because I do think there are Karens out there, but I don't think that I'm a Karen at all. Now, my grandmother, bless her heart, I loved my grandmother with all my heart, and she had flaws. And this is going to try to explain, because some people were saying, how can you say so many positive things about somebody, but then be saying negative things about them as well? How can somebody be so bad, but you still like them? Well, I use my grandmother as an example. My grandmother, I loved that woman so much. And we got very close in like the final years of her life. When I say the final years, I don't necessarily mean, the last 5 years of her life, but we got close, between my teenage years and my early 20s. And man, I loved that woman, but she was a tyrant. And there's so many things about my grandmother, although I loved her deeply. And when she died, I was in bed for days when she died. Couldn't get out of bed. Was crying all the time. When she died, I was just so depressed. I went into a depression. And but my grandmother was a very entitled woman, and she was an e-beggar as well. She had some really nasty, unattractive qualities that I just didn't like at all. But I loved her despite her flaws. And hopefully that goes to explain as to why I can really care about somebody and like somebody, but still recognize that they have got some really bad qualities. I mean, my grandmother had some bad qualities. If she saw you had something, for example, you had a stereo in your house. That's just one example. People don't use stereos anymore. Just say you had a stereo. If you had a stereo and if she came to your house and she saw it, she would expect that if she wanted that stereo, that you would just give it to her. She would write lists of things that she wanted my dad to buy her. And one time she put down that she wanted a chandelier. She was very, very entitled. I mean, you don't write down on a piece of paper that you want a chandelier. I mean, that's just very, very, very entitled. Most people don't have chandeliers in their house. And not even we did. So for her to write down that she wanted a chandelier, she expected that she could write a list of things that she wanted and it would just be gotten for her. She would go to my other grandma's house in Jamaica. I mean, I'm Jamaican, so she would, my grandparents are Jamaican as well. And this particular grandma of mine, as you can see in the photo, she was black, but my other grandma is like virtually white. So I used to call one grandma black grandma and the other one white, yellow grandma. So that's how I used to differentiate them. One of my grandmothers was black and the other one was white, or at least not black. And she would go to my yellow grandma's house, because that's what I called her. And she would not phone to say that she was coming. She would just turn up, walk into the house, expect to be served. And not only that, but once my yellow grandma caught my black grandma, which is the one you're seeing in this image, searching up her bedroom. And my grandmother said to her, what are you doing? Why are you searching up my room? And she was saying, I was looking for some money. And, my grandmother just had those terrible, terrible entitlement ways. She felt if she wanted something, she felt that she should be able to get it from you. No questions asked, that you should give it. I'm not quite like that. Now, when I was going to school, I think I was seen as somebody who was overly confident, not very sensitive. And I think a lot of people see me that way because they don't really know me. They don't realize that I'm a very compassionate person. And that, I have my good days and bad days like everybody else. And that I cry sometimes and I laugh sometimes. And when I cry really hard. And when I laugh really hard. When I was going to school, I think I was one of very few black people in my entire school. And I went to an English private school in the countryside. And there was this girl in the class who, she was always provoking something in me. And she would always start fights with me, not necessarily fights, but conflict. And I would react because I was a passionate person who wanted to defend myself. So I would react how somebody, how a strong-willed person who speaks up for themselves would react. And then when I would say, look, I'm going to tell the teacher what you're doing, she would turn on the tears and she would turn on the waterworks and she would cry and, oh, I'm so sorry. Please don't tell the teacher. the more I said, I will tell the teacher what you're up to, she would cry and she would play the victim. And then once the teacher got us in a room together to try and suss out what was going on between us in terms of the conflict, she would start turning on the waterworks. She would start crying within 5 minutes of sitting down to play the victim, to make it seem like she was the victim and I was the bad person. And because I didn't cry and I was very defiant and I knew that I'd done nothing wrong, the teacher took her side. I was the black girl who was loud, outspoken, confident. That's how I was seen. And she was the white girl who was meek and sensitive. And so the teacher didn't care about my feelings. And if I dared accuse the teacher of favoritism or racism, and I would tell the headmistress, you know, I'm being picked on, but the teacher's not siding with me. She's siding with the girl who's crying. That's when this particular teacher would do some big apology on me. So it would make it seem that she's not siding with anybody or that she's not racist. And that happened a few times. But, you know, you see these Karen videos on the online. You know, you've got the bird watching guy who told the girl to, you know, keep her dog on the leash, and you see that reaction. How dare this man tell me what I should do? And there's another one where this Hispanic woman is wearing virtually nothing. And this middle-aged white lady walks up to her and tells her to cover up. which is one that I actually find quite funny. And then there's another one where this white woman is having a complete meltdown in the store. And, you know, she's basically accusing this black woman who's doing absolutely nothing of attacking her. And the black woman says, who do you think the police are going to believe, her or me? And I thought, you know, that one is quite brutal to see what's really going on. But I don't see myself as a Karen whatsoever. But I think because I'm outspoken and very opinionated, you know, I think especially if you're a black woman and you're outspoken and you're opinionated, you are disliked for it more than the average person, I think. And I probably will explore this further. You know, I've given you a window into me. This channel, I discuss a lot of topics, and some of the topics are more uncomfortable than others. And it's not just about true crime. I like to discuss a variety of topics on this channel. This channel is about human behavior.